So, Forgotten Secrets of Glorantha. Here's some, or maybe never released secrets. One of the things that isn't clear in Glorantha all the time is that heroes are supposed to be really rare. Dragon Pass, of course, has like 14 heroes and superheroes, so there's a ton, but that's because it's the Hero Wars. Up until the Hero Wars, they're really uncommon. I mean, every cult has a bunch of hero cults in the text. That's because they get used to their heroes. Probably most cults don't have very many hero cults. One, maybe two. Superheroes, of course, even more rare. One of the secrets of superheroes, which I don't think has ever been revealed, is that superheroes are each kind of connected to a particular rune. So Herrick is death, Jariel is harmony, Elamli was life, Shang Solaris is the spirit rune, and it's possible that there can only ever be one superhero of that rune in all time. There's never been another death one, for example. Right? It's Herrick is it. He's the death superhero. And in fact, possibly the reason that Herrick defeats Jariel in the Hero Wars is because Jariel harmonized to his death.
He harmonized to his death?
Yeah, she harmonized to his death rune, so she was killed.
Ah, okay.
But the harmony goes both ways. She harmonized him, which is why after he kills her, he basically retires and goes away. You know, he doesn't want to kill anymore. So it kind of worked both ways, right? So then, I don't know what Tata was, Beast or something, right? But all the superheroes, but right, Androgeus is the man rune. Right?
But what about Androgeus?
The man rune.
Aye.
That's what I think. Or possibly change.
Because he's both male and female.
Yeah. But the idea is that they're kind of, each superhero is definitely aimed at a certain, really the superhero I made up was Elamli. The superhero of Pameltella who saved the peninsula from the death. So here's another thing that hasn't been clearly laid out, which is that in Pameltella, geology and history is running backwards. Okay, so if you go into the Second Age, you have the six-legged empire with the horses, right? And it's like a conventional, like Genghis Khan type empire, and then it's worked back its way into nomad tribes, okay, and into like primitive beasts, you know, like rhinoceri and you know, right. But then if you go over to the Tatarian in the west part of it, there's dinosaurs and lizard things, but those aren't relics of the past. Those are the new things that are coming. The dinosaurs are the newest animals in Pameltella, and the slarges are Pameltella is literally going backwards geologically. Right? Humans are on the way out. The most civilized and advanced humans were the Armali, and you know.
Yeah.
Right. Of course, the most civilized and advanced were the original humans, but they were evil too. So who cares, right?
So is there a reason for that?
It's just
a thing.
It is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could just easily ask why isn't Glorantha going that way?
No, it's just so there is no specific mythological.
This is the kind of thing that comes out with me and Greg talking, where I noticed this happening. I say, "Hey, Greg, do you realize that in Pameltella?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Because everything in Pameltella, like the people in Pameltella are going away from. So Fonrip, which is the civilized place, is kind of trying to hold out against the barbarous past, such as Herrick, you know, and the revolt against slavery. And of course, being more modern isn't always better. That's where you get slavery in cities and roads and taxes and dictatorships. But it's going backwards. So, you know, in the Fourth Age, I would expect the Slarges to rule most of Pameltella, if they're not wiped out by the chaos things brewing in the Narcan Desert.
Yeah.
Which I think those are in the guide, right? What happens? What's the big threat now in southern Pameltella is the Narcan Desert is a chaos nest, and there's rivers that drain down into it. Okay, kind of like the serpents in the wastes, except that there's way more water in Pameltella. It's more fertile. Okay, the Palatellan steppes are not like the wastes; they're more like the African savanna. So, so these riverbeds are in Palatella. Part of the year there's water in them, part of the year there's not. But what happens is during the dry season, hordes of grayskins and other chaos stuff come pouring up the riverbeds, and they have to be killed. And they aren't. They aren't individually very dangerous. They're, you know what grayskins are. They're like grayskins. You know, like a person with a chaos feature. Usually a bad chaos feature that hurts them, right? But they have to be killed and stopped, right? So what's happening is that in the Narcan desert, the forces that are there are breeding chaos to perfect it and get better chaos. And the leftovers, the rejects, are what's going north.
Intentionally.
Intentionally. It is organized chaos going on in the Narcan desert.
Okay.
So that's really bad.
When you talk about chaos in Glorantha, everybody focuses on Garantella and
right, but there's a really big chaos thing brewing in the Narcan. possibly the biggest chaos place in Glorantha right now, unless you count Godlearners. Right? Okay, so it's huge, and they're breeding it in an organized way, and the rejects are what's coming north. I think that it might be a relic of a corrupt relic of the six-legged empire from the Second Age. Because they would be organized, and they would have fled from the curses that destroyed their empire. But I'm not sure exactly what's there. I just know there's something. I know they have labs and breeding pens and stuff. It's like they're making bigger and bigger chaos monsters. So, and better. It's also possible the mother of monsters, at least part of it, came from that source. Anyway, so that's something to know about the Narcan Desert. Let's see, what else? Okay, I don't know how much. What?
No, nothing.
He's taking notes, and I said we're recording it, so.
You can take notes.
Of course, but he doesn't have to.
Okay, so here's the most embarrassing Chaosium secret, or one of them. Greg had a race for each of the elements at one time in the very early part of Glorantha. Okay, so the race for the heat element for the fire was the tamale, and then he realized he had hot tamales, so they went away.
Hot tamales.
Yeah, tamale was leader, so the hot tamales. He goes, oh, they're gone. I don't know how much of the East Isles history is in Guide Glorantha. I didn't get a chance to read it before I went to Con.
There's quite a lot about those islands that have treasure ships or whatever.
Well, here's the deal with the East Isles. In the God's Age, what happened was they were one continent. They were Vithella, right? And so a monster god. There was two monster gods that came to attack them. Beater and Gulper is what the name's translated as. And Beater would smash the continent and break it up into separate islands. Then Gulper would suck the islands down one by one and destroy them. So Vithella was being destroyed by this process. And here's a secret of these isles. There used to be one organized, like, decent pantheon of gods that ran the East Isles. Okay? And when the islands were shattered and broken into pieces, then what happened is that each island kept one fragment of personality of a god. And so each island in the East Isles has its own proprietary god, but it's whatever fragment it got. So that there's one island that has the god of hairdressers, you know, and there's one island that is the god of volcanoes, and there's one island that is the god of lions, and they each have just one thing, right? That's their island's piece. And they don't go and worship other gods because that's their god. Even if they may know their god is stupid, right? Because they have the god of public toilets or something, right? But that's their god. You wouldn't change it any more than you change your last name. It's just how it is, right? That's your god. If you're lucky enough to handle it with a good god, you can do more things, but your god is your god. So anyway, the goddess of Dawn, who saved the islands from being destroyed, what she did was she went to she wove the web of, I can't think of her name, the goddess of dawn. What's her name? It's not Vitha.
Yeah, they should be here. He knows all the names.
Well, I can't remember. But she wove the net. It's called her net that tied the islands together mystically, so they were still part of a whole. And because they were mystically together, then Gulper couldn't suck them down because they were connected, and Beater couldn't break them because they were already broken. So those gods were rendered impotent, and they couldn't destroy the islands anymore. So that would save them. And for the magical communication to keep the islands connected mystically, she had the Keats give up their power of flight. And that's why ducks don't fly, according to the East Islanders. And of course the Keats are more than just ducks. They're mostly ducks, even in the East Isles, but there's other ones there, of course. There's flamingos and auks and, well, not penguins, but there's other kinds of flightless birds.
They usually present it in less pathetic way than the ducks of...
Yes, but the ducks in the East Isles are highly respected. Well, they're sort of respected. They're still ducks, but it's considered bad luck to kill one. And they're considered good luck to have on your ship. Everyone, they realize that because of them, the islands weren't destroyed. Now, the Sorns, which I think were mentioned in the new Warren Spoiled Street, but I had Sorns in the Menagerie article. So the Sorns were pterodactyl Keats. Instead of birds, they were pterodactyls. But they didn't want to give up their power of flight, so they didn't. So they are considered a chaos enemy. And they're like mildly chaotic, about like a cave troll. You know, they usually don't have a chaos feature, maybe 5% of the time. And they can still fly, but of course their problem is that most of them are like 6 to 8 foot wingspan. They weigh about 30 pounds, and they don't have hands. So they can't do too much evil. I mean, they can carry off a little kid or poop down your chimney. And they do all the evil they can, but they're not like Bruise, right?
Yeah,
which are a real threat.
Minor threat.
Yeah, the Swords are more like a nasty pest that you want to get rid of when those around. Of course, they can fly a long way, so they can be anywhere in the East Isles. So that's the Swords. That's their main chaos foe. And of course, they're selfish. They didn't want to give up flight to save the islands. So their original islands, of course, were sunk because they didn't give up flight, but they moved into other islands. It says East Isles, let's see. East Isles. So in the Second Age, the East Isles empire was run from Golden Mokato, which had like a really good part of a god. It was like the god of being a king or something, right? And so they ran the empire, but you may notice that during the Second Age, all the empires are destroyed in these huge catastrophes, but not the East Isles Empire. Okay? This is because the people of Mokato, with their god and their skills, and they also aren't part of the Godlearner movement. They're a whole separate group. They fought the Godlearners, and they fought the dragon ring, the false dragon ring. And they held them off, right? I mean, they didn't beat them, but they held them off. And so what happened is Mokato saw the disaster. They prophesied the disasters and knew they were coming. And unlike the Godlearners and the Worm's Friends and the Six-Leggers and the New Dragon Ring and all those guys, and the elves, Aranora's elf empire, the Mokato Empire, saw how to save themselves. And what it was, is they withdrew all their people, all their soldiers, all their governors, all their bureaucrats back to Mokato. And voluntarily abandoned the whole empire. And by doing that, they weren't destroyed, because there was no empire left for the destructive forces to get a grip on. And of course now the Doldrums moved in, and then the East Isles kind of didn't do anything because the Third Age had that kind of that passive lack of communication activity, and that still hit them, right? So Mokato now, here's the thing, Mokato is still there, it's still fantastically rich, but they still can't leave their island. Because if they do, the doom that was awaiting for the East Alice Empire, it's still there.
Oh.
It hasn't triggered.
So it's like it's delayed, it's not...
It's delayed, it's still there. Okay, so they don't dare leave their island. Well, they are, right? So, but they still want their empire, so people can go to their island and leave again. So they're trying to, they're plotting to set up their empire, like, at a distance, by controlling it without themselves having to leave very much. Kind of the way that, for example, Carthage did it, where like Hannibal's army wasn't Carthaginian, right? It was just about, it was like mercenaries from Spain, and you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So they're trying to they're trying to set that up as best they can, but it's harder for them because at least Carthage could send out Hannibal and those guys, but they can't do that. They have to only stay on the island, so they're trying really hard to set it up, but it's hard. So Haragala has kind of taken up the slack, and Haragala they have a god of sailing ships and navies, and so they're kind of becoming the big power. So that's some East Isle secrets. Let's see. I think some of the secrets.
Nein, Lotti.
All the elder races have a secret plan to destroy the world in the 4th Age, at the end of the 3rd Age. I think these have been published, right?
Yeah, we know about the trolls and the glacier.
The trolls and the glacier, yeah, that's
the Aldriami and the forests.
Yes, well, the seeds they planted.
The seeds,
yeah.
the Mostali.
Removing the water?
No, and Sloan, where they have the huge chain and they drag the Slontas into the Magesta pool, or
yes.
Yes.
Well, the ice is going to go there too, so they might hit each other.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's the other way around. The feed the world with water, right?
Put it on
the troll plan is to plug Magasta's pool with the glacier.
Okay, so that's the troll.
And flood all the coastal lands where the humans live. Then they're going to move in and eat all the corpses.
Yeah.
So they have very simple plans, really. So we'll have lots of food.
Yeah, it's like they use.
Yeah.
And we don't. The Mostali do this. Dragon newts. I don't think we know that.
Yeah, dragon newts. We don't know it.
You know, their plan might be incomprehensible for humans. It might make no sense. Dragon newts do a lot of things that make no sense to humans because the dragon newts live. They're so alien to humans that because their goals are different. Like they can't die. Right? So one of the things about dragon newts is that like a majority of dragon newts living in the dragon's eye in those places, they never eat. They just starve to death. Then get reborn. Then they just do things until they starve to death. And why would they bother to eat? That would take up time. They don't eat, they don't sleep, they catch diseases and die. They don't care. Because they just get reborn immediately.
And then they have no sex, right?
No, dragon newts have no sex.